Hey, welcome to the Poach Podcast, hosted by yours truly, who gives a shit. Today we're talking to Katie Connors from the Portland Independent Restaurant Alliance about evictions. That's the intro you're going to get because I erased all the good ones.
I would say that, a lot of businesses at this point are sort of, they're playing kind of chicken, right? They're sort of barreling down towards, maybe, if there was savings or if they were profitable, they're seeing that those opportunities dwindle. Like, what are some of the options that restaurateurs might not know they can take to, keep the train on the rails?
Let's see. So there's a couple of different things. And when it comes down to evictions, we're really just talking about the relationship that you have with your landlord.
Yeah.
Your landlord at this point does not have any state or federal pressure to have to basically not evict you
Right.
or to not work with you. So it really comes down to the way that you communicate and how you present your case to your landlords.
Mhm.
Because that is going to be the deciding factor there,
Got it.
unfortunately. I really, some states do have commercial eviction moratoriums still in place.
Hey guys, I just wanted to show you how easy it is to Google this. I just type in list of states with eviction moratoriums, and I click on the very first result. This one was updated November 12th. That's when I recorded this screenshot, but this is updated almost every single day as far as I can tell. And yeah, if you look down at the bottom here, there's some detailed information about every state. So there you go. Back to our scheduled program.
In Oregon, ours expired as of October 1st. And right now we're working with city, county, and state partners to try to get that extended. So starting October 1st, small businesses, if they had any back rent due, need to start paying that back rent plus the rent that they owe as of October 1. And they have until March 31st, 2021 to pay that back rent.
Wow.
That being said, that is just on a state level. You can still go through the negotiating process with your landlords
Mhm.
to try to either get rent abatement. Rent abatement is going to be complete forgiveness of rent. Some landlords might have the ability to do that because they might be a larger developer that has a really good relationship with their bank, and their bank's not asking for full mortgage payments.
Got it.
So I would just ask,
Yeah.
is this possible? Because
Yeah.
sometimes it may be.
Right.
If you're dealing with a smaller landlord that maybe only has a few properties and is having to pay mortgage on a regular basis, is not a very big lender to their banks,
Sure.
then you're probably going to the thing is, with smaller landlords, you might have the ability to have a better conversation with them about and getting to the same page on what is the long-term goal and what are the long-term
Right.
goal for the landlord. They
Right.
understand that if they evict you, they're going to have a hell of a time trying to get someone into that space. So you have that on your side.
Yeah.
Like, that's just baseline.
Mhm.
And then it's also going to be in their interest to make it so that you are successful, so that you're able to see your lease out. You probably signed a 2-year lease, a 5-year lease, a 10-year lease. And if you spend all of your money on rent right now, you're not going to have any ability to succeed after all of this is done.
Yeah.
So our perspective on that is that you should go to the negotiating table and ask for, you should be able to ask for a sliding scale based on either percentage of sales or percentage of, so basically like how much you're down as of last year. So if you made $10,000 in the month of July and you paid X amount of rent,
Mhm.
in 2019, you should be able to pay half that amount if you're down 50%,
Gotcha.
just based on market value.
Yeah.
When you signed your lease, you signed it based on market value. That market value was based on your neighbors. It was based on how much traffic there was in the area. And we all know that market value is still not valid,
Right.
not
Right.
valid anymore. So whether your neighbors closed down or you're just really just not seeing as much traffic as there was when you signed your lease. So you should not be held accountable to the full rent that you signed before COVID.
It's not as hard of an argument to make to go, listen, I'm here, I'm willing to pay something.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a lot harder to fill this place if I vacate.
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
the situation is that we're sort of we're in this relationship together.
Yeah.
And if we can work together, it's going to be better for both of us.
Absolutely. And I think that what's difficult is, again, breaking that initial seal and having that really difficult conversation with someone that you feel has a lot more power than you do.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's the same premise that we're talking about with state legislators, is that you're putting money into their pockets.
Right.
Right. And they could use that money to pay mortgages. They could be using money for business growth. I mean, so at the same time, like this is a two-way street.
Yeah.
You could either break lease and go through that process and be evicted, but it's not going to be in their interest to go through that process either. Evictions can be extremely expensive. There's legal fees associated to that. If you signed a personal guarantor, that's even more of a headache to try over personal assets, which is a whole other crazy concept in general. I would say, if you have the chance, if you ever sign a lease in the future, never sign a personal guarantor, because you never know what's going to happen. You don't want your personal assets to be on the line during any of that.
Right. In these negotiations, that eviction can feel like a boogeyman.
Yes.
They can kind of hoard it over you. But at that point, you're sort of looking at them going, all right, well, it's going to be difficult. No matter what you're going to do, this is going to be difficult for you. And it's going to be financially, it's going to be a hardship for you to do this process the hard way, basically.
Exactly.
And all points that you could bring up in that negotiation and go like, let's not turn this into something that's going to be, enormously more expensive for both of us.
Absolutely. And I think that a great point is that, we're in this for the long run. We might be facing some major issues right now, but you want to be here on the other side. You want me to be here on the other side of this. Yeah. And this is not a sprint. This is a marathon. We're going to have to continue having these conversations, and these conversations, they might be really difficult now, but if we stay in communication about these different things like a sliding lease scale or any sort of those like lease negotiations we talked about previously, chances are you're going to have to share your sales reports to these guys. So there's going to have to be a sense of trust there and a sense of honesty. And, we aren't used to showing all of our financials to people like our landlords, but you know what, right now, anything that you can do, we all know that we're not doing business well right now.
Right.
So like anything that you can do,. Maybe that's sharing a little bit more information that you're comfortable with, but like you should probably just get a little bit more comfortable with it. Because if you want to be saving your business, this is just where we're at.
And now I was sort of surprised because our first conversation, you mentioned that there were people that can step in and start this negotiation process for you. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I think, we have some amazing resources. There's this woman, Michelle Reeves, here in town, which is how I have all this amazing information, who has been working in real estate for a very long time and is willing to answer questions, who is willing to make sure that small business owners that don't really have, their like group of lawyers and negotiators like by their side at all times. Let's just, we just don't have those resources. She's willing to be a resource for that. I don't know if she's willing to negotiate per se, because it really comes down to the person that has signed the lease to negotiate. But there are resources out there that, they can give you examples of how to negotiate.
You might not even know what you can say, right? Unless you have the conversation.
Yeah. And things like rent abatement, understanding what that means, things like personal guarantor, understanding what that means, looking at your lease, and every single personal guarantor that is signed has different amendments to it. They're not all the same. Leases aren't all the same. So having someone, just really taking the care of looking over your lease, looking at the language in your lease, if there's things that are confusing, asking your landlord for clarification. And if they're not willing to give clarification, trying to find someone that's working pro bono and this sort of stuff. I will put Michelle's guide to negotiating lease agreements on our website.
Awesome.
So that people can click through it and sort of understand it. It's just a 2-pager, really quick and simple, but it gives really good examples of how people can move forward with that, and really good just like tips and tricks to it as well. She is a wonderful asset and has been fighting for small businesses in Portland for a really long time.
What's that? Give me that website again.
INDPrestaurants.org.
Got it. And we'll put a link in there too, I'm sure.
Yeah. And Michelle, I mean, she is one of those people. I mean, there's a great group of people out here in Portland specifically. I'm sure there's in other cities as well, that are major developers, are landlords, are realtors that understand that we have to do this together,
Right.
and that landlords also should be advocating for things like commercial eviction moratorium, rent abatement, mortgage abatement, all of these different things, so that we have this sort of economy and culture on the other side of this. I think that people are thinking really short-sighted. You know, we're seeing landlords that are just saying no. Yeah, I'm not going to negotiate. And to be honest, that's a short-sighted decision.
Sure.
That is going to make this a much more difficult path for everyone. And we just want to make sure that, you know, we're all working together to make sure that we can all survive this and make it a super prosperous economy afterwards.
Yeah, it's not bad. You know, if you get to the table and they just say no, I mean, you know, it's just a lot better than just getting, you know, you got to try. I mean,
you got to keep on trying. And if they say no, then pivot. You know, if they say no to rent abatement, you can try this sliding scale. I think at that point, if people say no, you can say, listen, these are my books.
Yeah.
You can see that when I signed a lease with you, this is what my regular sales were for the first year. And you can see that right now I'm down 50 to 60%. How would you be able to pay rent at this rate? I really, you know, I want to know. Right now, we got a PPP loan. We've ventured through every single avenue that we have, you know, presented to us. And at this point, this is where we're at.
Yeah. And chances are they have other properties that are dealing with the same problem. They keep saying no. At some point in time, they're going to have to buckle. So it might as well be, you know, someone who's educated comes in there and sort of calmly, you know, lays out their argument. You know, that might be the one thing that actually gets them to understand that this is something that they have to do.
Yeah. And you have to be persistent. You might feel annoying, but this is your livelihood. So,
you know, in a real way, you're helping potentially other restaurants or at least other businesses, because if they own 3 properties and you can convince them that this is what they need to do, you're going to save 2 other businesses from having to just go ahead and get evicted. A lot of people don't know they have options.
Absolutely. And it really is a community effort right now. And it's the same thing when we're talking about commission caps. It's the same thing. You know, you're not experiencing this on your own. This is something, I think that sometimes it can really feel that way. Everyone feels isolated right now. Our community feels fractured and broken apart. But this is not only you. This is every single small business out there right now is facing some sort of difficulty. So just understanding that you have resources, and we're all here trying to make this easier so to do business and to keep people employed and to be supportive and a good employer and all of those different things.
Okay, quick recap before I run out of batteries. I'm going to boil down the juiciest nuggets for you. 1, look up your state's eviction moratorium status. I didn't know what that word meant. And then I did 16 takes where I said memorandum. Don't know what that word means either. Consider a real estate lawyer. Maybe one that'll do pro bono. If you can afford one, get it. Maybe you've got a friend or a friend of a friend who's in law school who can look over your lease agreement, give you some options. Number 3, ask for what you need. Start there. Start the negotiations from where you need. I'm going to keep waving my notepad at you like that's going to do anything. Number 4, open up your books if you can. If you're comfortable, show them what you were doing last year and talk about where you're at this year. That's a great jumping off point to just put it into context. 3 things to remember. It's harder and more expensive to evict you than it is to renegotiate. Number 2, if you can, stay out of a personal guarantor. That's going to, you know, give you more options down the road from where you are. And then number 3, we're all in this thing together. If you have any suggestions for things you want us to dive into a little deeper, email jake@postjobs.com. Comment below, subscribe, tell me how much of a dick I look like. I love you. Goodbye.